Okay, so this is the first live video from Racers HQ. 1 second. I'm just tweaking a couple little things on my end here. Give me just a minute. We'll let people kind of trickle in here, see who's going to show up. Let's see where we're at. There we go, right there. Okay. All right, so yes, thanks for joining me on the first live video from Racers HQ on the Facebook page. That's very exciting. If you don't know me, my name is Matt Covert. I'm the founder of Racers HQ, racershq.com. I love helping aspiring racing drivers. That's what the site is all about. Really excited about this. Okay, this is my first live video. You might know me from podcasting. Podcasting is a lot different than this because you can stop and edit anything that you want, but we're going to try and do the best we can here. So we've actually got quite a bit to talk about. I've got my notes up in front of me here on the computer, so I'll be looking at those a little bit. I've got questions pre-submitted already by Justin Lee, Neil Bullock, and Fernando Granados. I really want to get to those three because there's a lot of information to be going over with those guys. So I'm really excited to do this. So if you haven't asked a question yet, I really hope that you do. Go ahead and just type in your question in the comment section. I should be able to see them as they pop up. So go ahead and do that. If for some reason you have to leave and you don't get to answer or put your question in or anything like that, you can go to racershq.com/ask and we'll just put it right on the list. We're probably going to do this again pretty soon because the response has been really good. So yeah, let's jump right on into it. There's Mark Boudreau. Just shared the video. Thanks, Mark. That's nice to have you along. Oh, that's very cool. I'm really excited about this. This will be really interesting. Okay, here we go. All right, so I want to start off with a question that Justin Lee submitted a few days ago, and he says he wants to know how to best push your comfort zone on the track. And he says it's the single biggest question he hears, and he wants to know how to be comfortable correcting mistakes on the track. And I have a feeling that he's talking about, most people, when they talk about making mistakes on the track or going over the limit, I think that's what he's talking about, is how do we get up to the limit and figure out where it is and surpass it and figure out how to balance it without going over and wrecking the car or getting injured or anything like that. So I think there are two main components to this. So when you need to get out of your comfort zone and really start pushing, there's two things that you really need to be considering. The first component is before you go out and do this stuff, you really need to build your foundations. It's very easy to do, but you have to understand what the car wants to do, what you want it to do, how to negotiate with it, and kind of get everything to work together. So there's a bunch of great ways to do this. I love conceptual stuff. I love theory. I love the behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. Why do cars do what they do? I love vehicle dynamics. You have to learn these things, and books are one of the best ways to do it. Anything that Ross Bentley has written has a ton of great content. The Skip Barber book is amazing. I've got a whole shelf of them right over here. I'm looking at them. Henry Watts's book, the Niki Lauda book. There's a ton of great places to learn these vehicle dynamics, and you have to understand what's happening in the car before you go out and try to push it. I mean, without knowing what pushing it really means, that's going to be a problem for you. So, in addition, I guess I should say that racershq.com is the place to go and get this stuff for free. And there's a ton of conceptual things and theory, and there's a great chalkboard session video. It's getting a little old now, but the information is still really, really good. So the first component in pushing out of your comfort zone and doing it the right way and safely is to understand your vehicle dynamics and understand the basics. If you don't understand those, you're not going to know what you're doing. And to get up to the limit and push it a little bit and figure out, how much you can do without getting into trouble, you really have to understand what's going on. You have to understand how to correct those things so that you don't get into any type of trouble. So that's the first one. The second one, I think we can definitely say that once you have a general understanding, you do have to go and apply these things. And the Skip Barber book is, I can't remember which section of the book it's in, who wrote the section, but they're very adamant that you can build up to the limit gradually. You don't need to go in flying into a corner to just see what the car is capable of. That's not how it's done. So you have to bite off progression in little increments. And if you're not doing that, it gets a little risky. So you can actually overdrive the car 10 to 15, maybe 20% even, without getting into too much trouble. but without the foundation of understanding what the car is doing and why, it's just not going to work out well. So those are the two components in understanding, how to work with your comfort zone, move past it, and get to a new level. You have to understand the foundations, and you have to go implement it in small increments, and that's how you stay out of trouble. Really glad he asked that question. I don't think anyone's asked me that particular question before, so good to have that one on here. Let me just, I want to check to see what everybody's doing here. We'll just see real quick. See what we got here. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one, I think. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. I'm really excited about this stuff. So, by the way, that last one was from Justin Lee from Facebook. I think he went and submitted at racershq.com/ask if you want to submit your own question for amateur racing, all things amateur racing. Okay. So I want to move on to a question that Neil Bullock has asked. He says, would you say it would be better to learn driving dynamics in a sports car, or something like a Miata, he says, or something less sporty? And then he goes on to say, a friend of his learned on sim racing and started racing his 2001 Corolla before trading up to a Miata, and he's amazingly quick. Interesting. I have a lot to say about this. I'm a huge fan of sim racing in particular, and we're definitely going to talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about, I think, probably a concept that a lot of people tend to overlook, and that is, if you have it, go and race it. The best car to go race is the one you already have, and that's the great thing about autocrossing. We all know you can show up with anything you want and just go out and crush it. It's super easy. I love it. But let's talk about what happens when, I think his first part of the question was, would you say it's better to learn driving dynamics in something like a Miata or something less sporty? It could go either way with it. I would definitely say that if you're learning in a car that is not necessarily a performance car, you're going to have to learn its foibles, and you're definitely going to have to learn how to manipulate that car so that it actually works a little bit better. So in the long run, it might actually be better for you because you're going to have to learn some of the less obvious things, So at some point when you do jump into a Miata, you're going to say, oh my gosh, this is what it's supposed to feel like? Oh, this is super easy. I get it, right? And I'm a huge fan of that, just racing whatever you have. I mean, I've seen Corollas out on the autocross. They don't do too bad, but the best, especially entry-level car, because we have a lot of autocrossers here in the Racers HQ community. And if you're not racing what you already have, you're missing out, because there's a lot to be learned from driving something that isn't necessarily designed to be a sports car. So I would say that. And a lot of people, they want to start their endeavor by spending a huge amount of money. You don't need a Z06. You don't need a Mustang. You don't need a tricked out Civic. You don't need it, okay? All you need is what you have. You need it to pass tech inspection, but that's not usually too hard in autocross. So I would say that you could go either way with it. Now, as far as sim racing goes, his second part of the question is, he says, a friend of mine learned on sim racing and then started racing his 2001 Corolla before trading up to a Miata, and he's amazingly quick. I absolutely believe that. Let me tell you why. I love sim racing. I have an awesome sim racing setup just in the other room, and I have the great 3 screens they wrap around. It's very immersive. iRacing is just the best racing simulator that is out there. It's fantastic. It's been around long enough now so that the graphics aren't the best. They're still very, very good, but in my opinion, you don't even need them. You don't even need the good graphics, to go out and learn, because the iRacing's physics engine is really where it's at. So if you have the ability to get into iRacing, you definitely should, and I think that anyone probably could, because, well, let me say it this way. I was recently interviewing a guy named Glenn McGee, and he's a really young guy, and he's the first person in history to get recruited right out of the iRacing sim by Mazda to drive a factory Mazda race car. So, unbelievable thing. So, I mean, one, he proved that, you can get recruited out of video gaming to go, well, it's essentially, video gaming, simming, whatever, to go race a pro car. Unbelievable, okay? And he also proved that you can do it on a budget. I mean, I have a lot of really expensive, fun stuff to go iRacing, but you don't need that stuff, because when Glenn won his world championship in iRacing, he did it on a really basic computer tower And he did it with a like a refurbished Logitech G27 wheel. It cost him like less than $400 to get everything together to actually go out and do this. It's funny. I've seen some of the pictures of his old original setup, and he's got this old like leopard print chair, and it's literally just all clamped down to a regular kitchen table. You don't need the fancy stuff to go out and do that. But for Glenn, iRacing and sim racing was a huge thing for him because he didn't have any physical racing experience at all. So he was actually able to do so well in the sim, and the sim is so accurate. This part blew my mind when he told me this. I asked him, I was like, all right, Glenn, what was it like transitioning from a virtual video game car up to an actual Mazda MX-5 Cup car, the new Challenge Cup car? And he said it was almost seamless. He said the transition was so easy that, I mean, there was almost no difference at all, except for the tire feel, which he said he was able to get, just kart racing at the local kart racing league track or anything like that. So Glenn has definitely broken down some barriers for everybody in the sense that everyone's always complaining that there's no real good way to go get to the pro level. I mean, Glenn obviously proved that wrong, but he did it with less than $400 invested, so no excuses. So for someone who, and this is the other part of the first question, is if you have the money to go and buy a Miata right up front, they're not expensive anymore. You can get a good one for somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, and put a very small amount of money into it, and then go racing at in the street class, which I am a huge proponent of. I love street class; it's awesome. Just for that, just for the sake of it being really affordable and everything like that. So if you have the money to go and do something like that, I highly recommend that you do. It's extremely easy, and it's a great way to get going in autocross. I talked to a lot of guys who used autocross as a springboard for a pro racing career, which is another myth that people are always talking about. Oh, it's just autocross, whatever. No, you can go pro racing if you start in autocross. It's no big deal. Very cool stuff. So if you don't have the money to go and buy that Miata and you already have a Corolla, go race the Corolla. Okay, try and get a little bit of tire feel, but at the same time, if you can't afford $400 and you want to go pro racing, you're not trying hard enough, And I'm just saying that because I really care about your success, and so I want to be tough on you so that I don't give you any excuses. Okay, if you can't afford $400 and you're thinking about going pro racing, I mean, you really need to rethink a lot of your strategy. So anyone can afford to go iRacing. I think you should. It's extremely valuable, and if you do that for a while, I mean, just like Neil was saying, his friend learned on Sims and was really quick when he got into a real, nice balanced car. So I think that there's definitely something there, and if you're not doing that, you should definitely. So thank you, Neil Bullock, for that question. That was really fun. I thought about that one a lot today, and I was like, I'm really excited to talk about Glenn, which is really cool. By the way, Glenn's interview, which I did with him, the guy, he's so funny. He's a really cool guy. He races, like I said, he's a factory Mazda racer in the Mazda battery tender MX-5 Cup, which is pro racing. It's awesome. So right from gaming to pro race driving. Unbelievable story. His interview is going to be free on racershq.com in the next couple weeks, depending on a couple other little things. So be on the lookout for that. It's extremely insightful, and he'll tell you all about how he did it, the process, how Mazda found him, and how he went pro racing. So if you're interested in that, definitely want to pay attention to that. That's happening soon. So, okay, let's see where we are right now. Let me do just a little bit of checking here on something on my end. I want to see what we're doing here. Okay, there's that, and we've got that. Okay, I think we can keep going here. Yeah, okay, all right, yeah, we're going to keep going. Okay. All right, so this next one, people love the tactical stuff, they really do, and they are all about techniques and tuning, and this is going to be a really interesting thing, and there's a lot of meat in this one for sure. So this one's from Ben Friedman, and he emailed me this a couple days ago, so I was able to put some thought into this, and there's a lot here. There's a lot of information here, so here we go. We're going to dive right into this. Ben Friedman asks, what are sway bar adjustments affecting the most? Is it corner entry? Is it mid-corner? Is it corner exit? And when do I adjust the sway bar versus using tire pressures to make adjustments to the handling, or rebound adjustments in the shocks to balance the car out on the track? Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. So I think we're going to have to make 4 or 5 different points as I answer this question. So, okay, so he talked about sway bar tuning and tire tuning and shock tuning, okay? So here's what I'm going to start off with this. And again, I'm going to be really blunt. That's the best way to move real information without hurting anybody's feelings because I want you to be successful. So I'm going to be tough on him. So Ben Friedman, here's what I say about the shocks, okay? You're obviously working towards something really cool. I'm really excited for you. And I think, hang on a second, I think Ben was he the one who said... Hang on a second, here it is. Yeah, I left out the first part. I was just rechecking my inbox here. He says that he has an E36 M3, so he's definitely got something really cool to work with for sure. So we're going to see if we can help him out here. So, okay, so he's struggling a lot, and he's obviously in information overload because you can go anywhere and get a ton of information about this stuff, but none of it meshes together because everyone has their own opinions and whatever. So right now, right off the top, I'm going to say, look, okay, you need to figure out how tires work and sway bars work before you even think about shocks, okay? You put your shocks at the factory setting, whatever, and leave them. Don't even think about them. You don't need them now, okay? You can come back to them later once you have the other stuff figured out. So let's ignore the shock stuff for now because that makes everything a little bit more tricky. So let's focus on the 2 huge basics here, which is tire tuning and it's sway bar tuning. And there's a lot to go over here. So I'm going to start with the tires. All right, I'm going to start with the tires. Okay, so tire pressures are going to make you and break you, okay? All right, here. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I have behind me a huge chalk wall. I painted my whole wall in chalkboard paint just for situations like this. I have a lot to say, so I'm actually going to move over here, and we're gonna do this on the chalkboard wall. Okay, so tire pressures are unbelievably important. Do I need to do this? That seems like I need to do that. Okay, cool. All right, so tire pressures are unbelievable. Let me make an adjustment here on this light. This light's not working for me. Okay. All right, so tire pressures are really interesting because here's what happens, okay? You have the bottom of the tire. So you're looking at a tire like this, okay? And this is the bottom surface of the tire like that, okay? Your goal in tire pressures is to have a contact patch that goes all the way across here, okay? If you don't have this, you're losing a ton of potential speed and traction, all right? Let me grab this right here, okay? Here's what happens if you have... There we go. Yeah, here's what happens if you have a tire that is overinflated. Oops, I keep touching that button. Okay, there we go. Here's what happens if you have a tire that's overinflated, okay? It kind of does one of these on the bottom, right? And this is bad because only the center of the tire is touching the driving surface, right? An overinflated tire tends to bulge around the circumference, right? It actually lifts the sidewalls up off the ground. So you're losing a huge amount of potential traction, and this is no good, okay? So let's make one more example with the tires, like this, okay? Now, if you have an underinflated tire, this is radically emphasized, but this is what happens with an underinflated tire. It tends to bulge out on the sidewalls, right? And so the middle section rides up off the ground, okay? Because there's not enough pressure to keep the sidewalls in. Well, now you've lost all this middle section, okay? Now you don't have any grip here. So tires are the #1 consideration, and so are your tire pressures, okay? You've got to have that contact patch that goes all the way across, all right? If you don't have this, adjusting your sway bars and especially adjusting your shocks, you're not gonna get anything out of that whatsoever, okay? So this is your #1 concern, okay? There's a really cool way to figure out what your tire pressures are. What time is it? Do we have time to do this? Oh yeah, I think we're gonna hit this. I'll do a quick explanation on this. If we need to go deeper, then just write something in the comments and we'll push that to the next Q&A session, which I think we're going to do because there's a lot happening here. So I'll just go over this part real quick. But for tire tuning, I did this all last year when I won my autocross series last year, and I was the only one doing this, and I couldn't figure out why because it was awesome. Okay, after every run, I took 3 tire pressures. Or tire temperatures rather. I took one here, and one here, okay? Just to see if the pressures are right. If your pressures are right, then you'll get something like this. Let's say you get 100 degrees Fahrenheit in all 3 of these spots. Well, that means that you have a pretty even tire pressure or tire temperature all the way across, and that means your pressures are good because you have a full contact patch. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense, okay? At the same time, if you're overinflated like this, it's going to be much hotter in the middle, okay? And then the side is going to be much cooler, okay? And now you know, oh, when looking at your tire temperatures, oh, no big deal, okay? Now I know that my tire's overinflated. You need to drop some pressure out of this tire to get your traction back from maximize your contact patch, okay? So there's that. And I'll just do just one more example to kind of fill everything out. And again, we have the low pressure here, okay? This one, now it's gonna be cool in the middle, okay? And the sides are gonna be hot, you know? And the numbers vary depending on what's happened. But this is how you tune your tires. You have to take these three temperature measurements on each tire after every single run. That's exactly how you know how to tune your tires. If you don't have this maximum contact patch, you got nothing. And people always want to know, well, how do I go faster? No, how do you get more grip? That's the trick, okay? So, maximum contact patch. This is what you want. You've got to have your tire pressures right. Forget about your sway bars if you don't have this. Okay, once you have this, now we can start talking about tuning for sway bars, because that's definitely the next thing you want to be thinking about. So let's move over here and move on to this other thing, okay? Sway bars are actually called anti-roll bars. That's the technical term. I wonder if this is coming out backwards. Is this coming out backwards on Facebook Live? I can't tell because I'm filming this on my iPad, and whenever I'm looking at it, it looks backwards. So I hope it's coming out the right way. I think it will. I bet they'll fix it. Okay. So anyway, sway bars are actually called anti-roll bars, and for very good reason. Let me explain why. Okay. Let's make a little diagram here. So we've got our. I'm gonna make that skinny enough so I can see it with with the whole screen. Okay. So we've got this, and let's say we've got our we've got the shocks, and then we've got the springs that go around. Okay. This will be a really basic drawing, but this is gonna work for us. Let's make these a little shorter, just so it all fits in the frame a little bit easier. Okay? All right, here we go. Oh, there's Kevin. Okay, so Kevin Stevens says that it is backwards in the comment. Interesting. Okay, so this is... I'm going to have to see. All right, I'm going to make an attempt at this. I bet I can do this. All right, you paying attention, Kevin? All right, here we go. Anti-roll. Did that come out right? It looks right for me now. That was tricky. That took some brain power. So thanks for the comment on that, Kevin. I will have to research something about how to make that fixed. Okay. Anyway, so that's happening. All right. So let's get back to these two tires. Okay. All right. So this is our tiny diagram, and this is the car. Okay. So as a car is turning to the left, the car's going to be leaning to the right. Okay. So let's draw this. Okay, so the car, that's the body line of the car, okay? It's tipping this way, okay? And this is bad because anytime a car is in roll, in the process of rolling, it is not at peak grip. Peak grip only happens when the car settles into its sweet spot and the weight transfer stops and begins to stabilize, okay? So that's the problem, okay? An anti-roll bar is interesting. Well, let me go back one step, okay? So obviously we've got this here. When this is happening, this side is compressing. We'll just draw that here, compressing. And this side is decompressing. Pretty basic stuff, right? Okay, so if we add, I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm gonna use this, there we go. So if we add an anti-roll bar, we'll just draw it like that, okay? Anti-roll bars, sometimes called torsion bars, because they're able to move weight and pressure from one place to another. Okay, oh, I got you, Kevin. All right, I got you. All right, cool. All right, so so an anti-roll bar can actually move mechanical pressure from one place to another. This compression is a type of pressure, okay? So as the car is turning this way, it's tipping this way, so we get this, just like we did before. But now that we have the anti-roll bar, rather than getting a huge amount of upward pressure, we're also adding a small amount of downward pressure on this side, because this huge amount of compression is being transferred over to here. So as this side is compressing, it's actually dragging this side down with it, okay? So that's what's happening there, okay? So this is how anti-roll bars work, also called sway bars, but that's not technically the right term. This is how they work and why. So if you can make changes like this by changing the stiffness of the bar. Sometimes there are hollow bars, thicker bars, solid bars. Depending on what your car wants to do, you can change how much torsion is being transferred from one place to another over here, and that's very important if you're tuning your car. Okay, so let's talk in generality. So let's let's say you have a car that is, oh, I'm gonna have to write this backwards again. I'm gonna try again. Under S. This is so funny. I hope he's not messing with me. If he was messing with me, then I've just written everything up here backwards. Okay, anyway. All right, so if you have a car that's understeering, then one of the best ways to fix this is to add a, oh, I'm going to have to write this backwards too, stiff rear anti-roll bar, okay? Just talking generalities, okay? But that's actually, and I had a great experience with this last year. There's Fernando Granado says, good job. Yeah, that's a terrible backwards penmanship, but it is backwards penmanship, so that's happening. Very exciting. Okay, so I had a lot of experience with an understeering car last year in autocross. And I had a BRZ. I did really well with it, and it had a natural tendency to understeer. And I hated it because it would just plow into the corners. You couldn't rotate the car. It wasn't fast. It was awful. So everyone was telling me, oh no, a rear drive car like that, nah, you need to put a stiff front bar on. And I was like, whoa, hang on a second. That doesn't make any sense because I'm always reading and studying and learning and teaching this stuff. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all. So I put a stiff rear bar on it, and it worked beautifully, okay? So as a general rule, it doesn't always work the same way, but in this case, and I would say probably in 95% of cases, this is true. If you have a car that's understeering, you're going to want a stiffer rear bar, okay? Opposite is true. I'm not gonna write all this, but opposite is true. So if you have a car that is oversteering, like the FRS, even though they're almost the same car, the factory shocks are different, and so the tendency of the FRS versus BRZ is opposite. So to fix that, you would have to put on a front bar, and that's what everybody does. Everyone puts a big front bar on the FRS, and it works great because that's how you fix something like this, okay? So to reiterate, if you don't have your tire pressures right, you're wasting all of your time. You have to have this maximized contact patch all the way across, okay? If the sidewalls or center not on the driving surface, you don't have maximum grip, okay? And then you won't know if the tuning you're doing using this method is going to work at all, okay? You'll be doing false tuning, and that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't even think about the shocks. Don't even think about shocks until you definitely have that figured out. So tire pressure, and then you can worry about your anti-roll bars, and then from there, maybe if you want to tweak, you can do some shock. So as far as corner entry, mid corner, or corner exit, because I know that was part of his question, I wouldn't worry about it because it sounds like you have a lot of other things that you need to get figured out first. So yeah, I think that you would definitely want to go in that direction. So tire pressures, then anti-roll bars, and then maybe you can get into some shock tuning, something like that. Okay. All right. So I know Fernando's on here. He left that good job comment. So kudos there. And I know he actually, was that him? I know it's a bunch of people got me at the last second. Yeah, he shot me an email at the last second, and let's see. Okay, here it is. This is from Fernando. He says, I've been reading a few forums lately about autocross alignments. I was curious about what kind of alignment you run typically, okay? He says also, if you could also offer some advice on setting up the alignment on an all-wheel drive car. He says, I've read that you would typically set them as if you were setting up a front-wheel drive car because so much weight is focused over the front axles. I would agree with that. Hey, there's Rick Staley. He just jumped on, said great session, Matt. I gotta say, okay, so if you're not listening to the Racers HQ podcast, I really hope that you do. I just had Rick on. Rick's a good friend of mine, and we did some coaching together a couple weeks ago, and this guy, it clicked for him, and he is just crushing it down there, and got his first win last week, which was really exciting. He's the points leader down there at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is really cool. So, hey, there's Tom DeLong. He's one of my stunt driving friends. He's the, I guess, Tom, are you the founder, CEO, president, or Galaxy Master of Detailable? I'm not sure what your title is, but he owns his own detailing company in Pennsylvania, Detailable.com, I believe, if you want to check him out, if you're in that area. There he is. Yes, go and check out Rick Staley. He's crushing it, and we debriefed with a great coaching session on the Racers HQ podcast. So do that, and he and I are racing again together this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun in my backyard. That'll be cool. All right, so sorry, I'm getting so sidetracked. There's so much happening here. I love this live stuff. It goes a mile a minute. It's really great. Okay. Incidentally, for any of you who are listening, please go ahead and pop into the comments if you have anything you want to say or if you want to add or ask a question right now. and maybe we can get to that before we wrap this up here. But let's go back to Fernando's question, which I I read and then quickly move on to something else. So we'll come back to that and do that. Okay. All right. He said, okay, he's been reading autocross alignments. That's right. So advice setting up an all-wheel drive car's alignment. He thinks it's a lot like the front-wheel drive cars. This is a really tricky one because, and he asked what kind of alignment I always run, and I say I only run in street class because I don't care about tuning very much. I like knowing how to do it, but I like focusing on driving. And being in street class removes that. It removes the maintenance factor. So all you have to do is worry about driving, and that's what I love to do. I'm very interested in driving. I love it. Okay. So as far as all-wheel drive cars and front-wheel drive cars go, you're absolutely right. There is a huge amount of weight that's at the front of the car for sure. And I think as far as alignment goes, I would really only want to talk about camber. And we're going to move back over here to the chalkboard, which is awesome. I love this thing. How cool is this chalkboard, right? And running out of room here. That's all right. We'll erase this one over here and start over. All right, so as far as alignment goes, now we're getting into an advanced session, which should be interesting. So let's talk about a cambered tire. We just conceptually talked about, and I just erased it, so we just conceptually talked about the how to tune your tire pressure for maximum grip, okay? This is for something that doesn't have a lot of camber, a camber-challenged car, okay? Something like that, like the BRZ has terrible camber options. So let's talk about something like an all-wheel drive car or front-wheel drive car where you actually can work on some alignment options, okay? So let's draw the axle, and then we'll kind of radicalize this so it's easier to see, like this, okay? So this is what a car with negative camber would look like that, okay? So to tune your camber, and he's asking in generalities about all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive, but I don't really want to go there because I really feel like everyone should be doing this to tune their own car with exactly the right information instead of using generalities. So for something like this that has a lot of camber, you're going to want to tune a little bit differently, okay? So this is an advanced thing. I know I'm going to say two opposite things here, but they both apply in different situations. So if you're riding a negative camber, let's say you're up to like 2 degrees negative camber. Let's just go with that, okay? So negative 2 degrees, okay? And this is good, and I'll show you why. So this is what you'd be looking for here. Let's say that you get 100, oh, is this backwards? Yeah, these are backwards. I forgot about that. 2 degrees. This is so weird thinking about this backwards. Okay, so let's say you get 110 degrees on the inside, okay? And then when you take a measurement in the middle, you get a 90, and then on the outside, you're going to get a, oh, that's gonna be nice. 80, I can draw an 8 and a 0 backwards. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this is what actually you're looking for, something like this. Well, let's just say this is a 100 just for the sake of ease. Okay, so let's say that you're getting this, okay? When you are running a car with negative camber, you're actually looking for the inside of the tire to be hotter. Why is that? Hey, Paul Sexton just joined the session with us. Paul Sexton is one of my sponsored drivers down in Virginia. He drives a bright red Toyota Prius. He is awesome. Check him out on Instagram at Paul Sexton Racing. He's actually my media manager. He's taking on some really cool responsibilities at Racers HQ. So how you doing, Paul? If you have something you want to add, put it in the comments, please, if you would. Anyone else, if you have any questions or anything, throw them in the comments. Please do that. There's a very good reason that you would be looking for a warmer temperature on the inside of a tire with negative camber, okay? When this tire rolls into the corner, and like I said, this is very radical, but when this tire rolls into the corner, it's actually going to tip like this, okay? Because of the body roll and the pressure pushing the tire out. So in the end, it is actually going to be flat on the driving surface like this in the corner, and that's what we talked about. There he is. Oh, I'm sorry. Paul Sexton says, sorry, bro, I'm from West Virginia. Cough, cough. He says hello, and my bad on that, man. West Virginia, Paul Sexton. Okay. Moving on, if you don't mind, Paul, I'm going to keep going now. Okay. All right, so as this tire rolls into the corner, it tips. So in the corner, it actually looks like this, and this is where you're looking for optimal traction right here, okay? The only reason this is hotter is because when it's driving down the straightaway, going like this is getting more traction, more friction than the outside of the tire, and that's the only reason it's hotter, okay? So even though it doesn't look right when you take temperatures, you have to understand that when it's in the corner, it is actually right, okay? Even though the temperatures are off. So the first example we did a few minutes ago, that was for conceptually understanding why you need contact patch and how to measure it on a camber challenge car or a factory car, stock car, whatever. This is more for like a performance car if you're getting into something like, let's see, who can I use as an example? I can't think of it off the top of my head. If you're in like a modified class or one of the street touring classes, you can mess with a lot of this stuff, okay? And this is really good stuff. You know, Miatas out of the factory, they can do this negative 2-degree camber thing, which is really good. So this is what you're actually looking for. So really excited about that. That was a really good thing, and I'm glad we were able to go over that, because that plays a huge role. People just don't understand how important tires are. By the way, I'm always trying to figure out who's doing what for tires. So if you're listening to this, I know there are several people on right now. I can see who's on here. Just real quick in the comments, if you could you just tell me what tires everyone's going with this year? I'm a huge fan of the Dunlop Z2s. I used them for a couple years, but they're just not the fastest tire anymore. I miss them, but I think that the RA71Rs are definitely are going to be the fastest tire. And I mean, they're on Rick's car. I drove Rick's FRS. I mean, I drooled all over it. It was such an amazing car. There's Jeremiah Stotler. He's on the Potenza RA71Rs. There's Rick Staley confirming that he does have the RA71Rs. There's Fernando. He's on the RA71Rs. I mean, it's pretty clear that that the RA71Rs are still the fastest tire. There's Paul Sexton. He's on the RA71Rs. Wow, there we go. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, there's Justin Flynn from the Sports Car Club of New Hampshire. He's on the Rival. He says Rival 1.5s on the STR S2000. Justin, did you buy an STR, or did you buy an S2000, or are you co-driving that car? That's really cool. I wonder if he's got the Rivals. Yeah, I know a lot of people. They either went with the Rivals or the Bridgestones, and I went with the Dunlops, but I should have gone with other ones. Oh, he's saying that Justin is saying most of the SDR cars are running them. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. So there is Calvin Gillick. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. That's cool. I know Calvin. Was that you? That must have been the same Calvin. I was recently guesting on Spectral Racing's Hot Lap Live. I think that was Calvin who popped in and asked the question over there. Nice to see you over there. Justin's co-driving in New Jersey pro solo event. Yeah, that would be cool. I really wanted to go to that. So Calvin said he is on something else. I missed it. The comments went by. He says he has RE71Rs coming. So I think it's pretty clear. If you go onto the SCCA's results website anyway, it's pretty obvious. I mean, all the national winners there on RE71Rs, and I thought originally that, well, it's probably only because they're offering the the contingency money or whatever, but I definitely think the RE71Rs are the fastest, proven everywhere, and I'm pretty sure they're not actually 200 treadwear tires. No one's gotten their durometers out and actually checked yet, but I have a feeling that tire is a lot more. Probably like 140, I would say. A lot of guys are tossing their Hoosier slicks to go with the RE71Rs because the grip is just about as good. Plus, you get a rain tire instantly because the RE71R is a fantastic rain tire as well. So that's happening. Let me see if I can catch up here. Catch up to see what people are saying here. Yep, that was Calvin. Yeah, that was him on Spectra. I thought that was you. Man. Yeah, nice to see you again. I haven't chatted with you guys in a while, so okay, cool. All right, yeah. So I just want to go back and make sure I answer that question from Fernando appropriately. Alignment, yes. All-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. Yeah, I mean, all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive cars are similar, but honestly, everyone should be doing their own thing and testing everything all the time. That's my firm opinion on that. So. Okay, so I think, we've gone over here by about 7 minutes. So I want to give everyone one last chance to add something or add a comment or something or ask another question before we wrap up here. I think we definitely need to do this again. This was a lot of fun, for sure. I love podcasting, like I said, but this is my first live event, and it's pretty interesting. I definitely didn't know it was going to be backwards. So. Okay, so I think everyone's pretty much good at this point. Yeah, it seems like everyone's good. And okay, yeah. So if you do have a question and you just haven't submitted it yet. Oh, there's Justin again. He says, "When will I see you at New Hampshire Motor Speedway or Devon's?" Justin, I was at the opening round. I co-drove with Rick Staley, who just popped on here a second ago, and we crushed it. We took 1-2, and then Rick Staley's the new big dog in STX, and he got his win next time. So I'm actually racing in Cumberland this weekend. I don't know when I'll be at New Hampshire Motor Speedway or Devons again, but I would like to try to. If you know anyone who wants a co-driver at Devons, connect us, Justin. I'd like to go down there and drive something. That'd be a lot of fun. So cool, guys. Thanks for popping in. I really appreciate it. I love answering questions and talking. This is my whole life. I love this stuff. So if you have a question and you didn't get to put it in or whatever, or you think of something later, definitely go to racershq.com/ask and submit your question there. We're definitely going to be doing this again. I think at this point I'll probably do it again next week because I got a really good response from this, and I think there's a lot more we can talk about right away. So if you haven't asked your question or you think of something later, again, go to racershq.com/ask. And if you got any value out of this whatsoever, if you really like this type of community thing, please share Racers HQ with a friend. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the website. I'm very excited about that. So definitely, share it with a friend. I love helping people. And if you need anything from me, shoot me an email, matt@racershq.com. Again, if you have another question, please go ahead and just submit that right away at racershq.com/ask. Thanks. Oh, and there's Paul Sexton. Yes, I have. Oh, man. My finger was on the button. Okay, so Paul has made a really good point. Like I said, he's my media guy. He's my sponsored racing driver. And Paul, so funny. I really love helping Paul out. I gave Paul a very small amount of sponsorship money. I feel like I've paid him $10,000 already this year. He's been a huge asset to the brand in so many ways. And my brand does have a little store. There's apparel there. There's stickers. I don't get any of the money anymore. I'm giving all the money to Paul Sexton so that he can do more racing and progress his career. He's going places. I see a huge amount of potential in him. So help a brother out. Go to racershq.com/shop, and that'll take you right to the store. And yeah, I think that's, I'm glad you added that. Thank you, Paul, Paul, for that right at the end. So, all right, again, racershq.com/ask if you want to ask me anything, and I will see you guys. Let's plan on doing this again next week, 7 p.m. Wednesday Eastern. I will see you guys then. Have a good night.